Story 1. Look out for over-explanation of simple things. When the dinner with her friend has a television script attached to it, you know something is up. This is more for ongoing cheating but still applicable. Story 2. I always find it unusual when I start getting accused of cheating or encountering an unusual number of fabricated fights because I immediately recognize a guilty conscience. Story 3. Acting like they hate a certain person, really despise them, when in fact they fancy them and are secretly seducing them. Story 4. A hard shift in typical behavior, usually involving things that were previously public suddenly becoming secret. I caught my ex-girlfriend cheating because she would usually talk about where and who she was with often. Then she suddenly became vague about those details. She used to have me use her phone to look things up, and around that same time she became very guarded about where it was and wouldn't let me look. She also stopped sharing her work schedule. She got caught because she said she would be working a double shift, and I had already suspected some dishonesty. When I casually walked into her workplace, without calling her cell directly, to ask her something, they said she wasn't there. I immediately called her cell, and she said she was in her unit and not to disturb her. If you were at work, we would be having this conversation face to face. And then she hung up. She knew it was over. We had the talk a few hours later and went our separate ways. Story 5. Sudden interest in losing weight, distance, unwarranted anger at me, work trips away with late flights home, lack of interest in me or my family, lack of interest in sex with me. Looking back, they add up, but at the time it can be hard to pinpoint. In my case, I thought he was depressed. Story 6. When they are unhappy about something in your relationship and suddenly stop caring about it. Story 7. Whatever trace of my presence I left in his apartment, such as a sticker, a hairpin, or a note, made him upset because he considered it possessive. The truth is, he wanted his place to appear as a bachelor pad so that no other woman would suspect he was in a relationship. He also did his best to look single when attending any parties with me, using the excuse that he hated clinginess in public, just in case he ran into someone he was interested in. In hindsight, I should never have ignored those signs or made excuses. Story 8. He checked out other women, not just a little but in obvious ways. I am here to say that people who chase after the exciting feeling of love are, in my opinion, much more likely to cheat. They will always be searching for that feeling, and you cannot give them that forever. They also give themselves away in small ways, like saying all men cheat or that they are not good people. They may say these things jokingly, but they are actually revealing themselves. Also, a little extra note. Stay away from men who disrespect older women or older people in general. This is a big sign that he wants to cling to his youth. People like that will usually cheat on you with someone younger someday because they dislike growing old. Hope that helps. Story 9. Insane jealousy and accusations. Weird phone behavior. Picking fights. Avoiding conversation. Becoming obsessed with their looks, appearance, and workout. Story 10. I have had 3 different occurrences of this. Here they are. 1. Starting to talk a lot about an old friend of mine. She's very cool. We hung out until 3 a.m. yesterday. 2. Saying that he worries I am going to leave him for another person one day. Being jealous of my friends and saying some of my friends must have a crush on me. 3. Acting much more affectionate than usual. Story 11. I used to think cheaters were the hot and arrogant brads, so I stopped dating the popular kids when I was a teenager and went for the cute geek gamer type. It turns out he cheated on me, which was the most pain I felt when I was 27 because I never thought someone I loved so much and thought was so kind would be able to hurt me that badly. There is no type. Story 12. Starting fights and being defensive or projecting. He would start fights over nothing to try to get me to leave or for him to leave. He would literally start fights when he was about to cheat on me or afterward to make himself feel less guilty, I guess. I would say being secretive about their phone is a big one, but mine was overly not secretive about his phone. I'm almost positive he had a burner phone somewhere, but I had never looked through his phone in the decade that we were together, so he didn't really need to be super secretive. One day, I got a gut feeling as we were about to buy a house. I gave in to my gut feeling and went through his phone when he fell asleep, and that was it. Years and years of cheating and much more. So gut instinct is the biggest one for me. It may not be an early sign, but it is a sign you should not ignore. I was suppressing my gut instincts for so long because of trauma that I assumed I was just overreacting or had anxiety. But no, I wish I had trusted it sooner. Story 13. Many years ago, I dated someone who was extremely jealous of other women. She constantly wanted to go through my phone, frequently checked up on me, and regularly accused me of cheating on her. Turned out she was doing all of those things herself the entire time. Story 14. Here is a lesson learned. If they cheated with you, then they will absolutely cheat on you. Story 15. Subtle changes in communication. They started being more vague about how their day went. Returning texts and calls is not as much a priority as it used to be. Story 16. I also have to add, my first indication was one time I took his vehicle to take the dogs to the park. One of them is a notorious crotch sniffer. She was overly interested in the front passenger seat. Knowing her inclination for a good crotch sniff, my mind immediately went to questioning whose smelly area was sitting in that seat. It turns out he was having sex with the side partner in the front passenger seat. Dogs know. Story 17. Increased phone use, change of habits, dressing better than usual, looking after themselves better, mentioning someone often, being defensive when asked innocent questions, being distant, being aggressive towards you, changes in their story about where they were and with whom. Story 18. Unusual sensation in your stomach when everything has been fine for years. Story 19. He became meaner and colder towards me and was much more secretive with his phone. I don't know if he physically cheated, but he definitely planned to and was having some kind of emotional affair. It is very obvious looking back, and I kind of knew at the time but didn't want to believe it because I am pregnant and couldn't imagine him ever hurting me that badly. We have been broken up for 2 months now. Story 20. I feel some of these comments are missing that the question asked for signs before the cheater ever cheated. Before my ex ever started suddenly having to work late and early because he was seeing his affair partner before and after work, I should have known he would cheat because of his poor boundaries around other women. He would claim he was naturally flirty, but it didn't mean anything. He always had girl best friends that he was too close to. He was too affectionate with other women, like wanting to play with their hair and asking them to play with his. Basically, he was welcoming opportunities for feelings to grow. I don't think he ever made the first move, but he encouraged it. I know for a fact there were at least 2 different girls he cheated with, but I suspect 1 or 2 others. I have to co-parent with him. He got himself a new girlfriend who is 10 years younger, and he's doing the same exact thing with her. It's only a matter of time. This girl seems jealous of me for some reason when she needs to direct her energy to her best friend, his current best friend. Story 21. Disengaging in general and prioritizing outside activities over existing plans. Most especially, never trust someone who abandons you over the holidays. Story 22. We had a 15-year marriage. About 7 or 8 years in, I found men's underwear beneath the headboard. There were 2 pairs, and I thought it was very strange as I had never seen them before. She assured me that they were mine from years ago. I always found this odd but never had any other indication of cheating. 12 years in, the exact same thing happened. I found a pair of socks that definitely was not mine. I would never buy them. They were from a show I had never seen. She said they were a Secret Santa gift from a coworker, and I believed her. I still do not know for sure about the first 2 times, but 3 years ago, almost to the day, I walked in on her having sex with our neighbor. Story 23. Texts from a new coworker. Changes in phone access or placing it screen side down when that did not used to be the case. New workout routines. Joining a running club. Story 24. I was very young and naive, and he was my first love. I eventually found solid proof of cheating multiple times, but there were some good warning signs. Disappearing at the end of the night and unreachable until the next morning. Secretive with his phone and deleted all text messages. Kept me away from friends and family. Would not include me on guys' night out, even though the other guys brought their girlfriends. Very reluctant to declare our relationship official. Avoided referring to me as his girlfriend. Story 25. Trust your gut. But a big change can bring it out. A new job with new people can bring new behaviors that at first seem normal because it's new. talking about a person more, then stopping talking about them altogether with no reason. Strange phone behavior is definitely part of what made me realize. I came home after a work event pretty drunk and went through his phone, finding the evidence I knew would be there. My gut told me, and I was right. Story 26. It wasn't hard to figure out because my husband was a teacher, and so was his affair partner. Two things. One, his car was in the shop. I went to the school to pick him up and walked toward his classroom. It was almost Christmas, and his affair partner met me in the hallway to greet me and said she had a present for my son. I accepted but thought it was strange. Two, my husband rolled over in bed, and I noticed that his phone was on. I picked it up, and it went directly to the social media page of the woman I had met just days earlier. He and she first had sex on Mother's Day. I am not bitter at all. Story 27. He started being mean for no reason, and when we went out drinking, he asked why I was so nice to him. It was a strange combination of being mean for no reason while constantly telling me how nice and kind I was and that he didn't deserve it. Then one day, while scrolling on someone's dog rescue page, I heard an older lady say, "If your dog starts snapping at you, somebody else is feeding it." It was like a light bulb went off and everything connected. Story 28. Coldness, impatience, staying late at work or attending more meetings, sharing stories about this person, accidentally bumping into this person at social events. Then finally, maybe we should see other people too. Story 29. Women swooned over him regularly. I learned that there is an invisible open for business sign that some people wear. It is a vibe. Those with no intention of cheating keep that invisible sign turned off, and the opposite sex can tell. When I was married the first time, I kept that sign off and never had to fend off a man from hitting on me. When I was divorced and dating again, I turned my invisible sign on and never wanted for male attention. When I met my second husband, the sign went back off. It is all about the vibe you throw out there. Cheaters always have the sign on. Story 30. He received a call and referred to the person as sweetie. When I asked him about it, he said it was his mother. I questioned him about calling his mother sweetie, and he acted surprised. It turned out it was his ex, with whom he was secretly making plans to move back in. It was a short-term relationship for me, so I ended it before more damage was done. Several months later, his ex, who he was now living with again, found out that he had been cheating on her and kicked him out. Story 31. Multiple issues. 1. Lack of effort and care. 2. Failure to communicate feelings. 3. Withholding information. 4. Constantly on the phone. 5. Frequent bickering. Story 32. Started watching his diet, eating salads for lunch. Became very protective of his telephone. Went to bed early and was on the telephone when I finally came in, claiming he was playing Candy Crush. Became generally quiet, moody, and petulant. Story 33. When the sex is different, such as having a new move or the rhythm not being the same as usual, and the whole trust your intuition concept. Story 34. They started sleeping in another room because of snoring. Really, they just wanted to be able to text and call their assistant principal. Story 35. Asking for an open relationship. It has either already happened or is going to happen. Story 36. Being empathetic to their married friend who was unfaithful. Story 37. Usually, there are few changes in their behavior and demeanor. They start snapping at you over silly things or stuff that never bothered them before. They begin telling you things they do not like or want you to change. They become secretive with their phone, taking it to the bathroom, turning notifications down or off, or leaving the room to answer calls. Story 38. He became mean and angry, would not go to bed at the same time, and started working out. Story 39. Happened to me in college, but hindsight is 2020. The clear sign was getting the "sorry, I fell asleep" excuse after not hearing from her all night. Story 40. I would say any new hobby or interest is suspicious. Many people are mentioning a new interest in improving their appearance, but my ex-boyfriend suddenly became fanatically vegan after years of being a big meat eater. It turned out the girl he was cheating on me with was a militant vegan. My ex-husband had a dramatic change in his taste in music when he was cheating. He also started recommending restaurants we had never been to, but suddenly he loved them. It was very obvious in hindsight. Story 41. When you read a thread like this, it is a good way to introduce doubt in your mind. Please keep that in mind, people. Not everyone and everything is about cheating. Story 42. I have had a week of dreams that she was seeing someone else. Then the gut feeling hit me. She just started to ignore me. I have done the same. I have made a lot of effort to communicate, but I feel it is a one-sided relationship, and I have said that to her. I would send long texts about my feelings, and her reply would be, "Love you. We are trying," but I have just gone cold to the bone. It is what it is. I am generalizing. I just cannot help the feeling. Story 43. 1. Being really secretive with his phone to the point he would not even look at it if I was watching or close by him. 2. Picking fights with me about the tiniest things. 3. Going to the gym almost every day and eating healthier. 4. Getting angry with me when I asked about date nights, future plans, holidays we need to book, and so on. This happened more than once, which is why I knew every single time he did it. Story 44. We never got into arguments, but suddenly they would start conflicts with me over nothing. Story 45. Lying. Small lies you catch them in mean they are much bigger ones. Story 46. Glaring silences. She would come home and say, "Oh, I hung out with Nathan today. We went and got a sandwich. We hung out by the lake." I can hear you not saying, "And then we had sex at his place." People do not just end sentences that way. Story 47. Was suddenly very paranoid about me cheating to the point I was not allowed to hang out with people of the opposite sex, even in groups, even though he had previously been fine with me having male friends. He read my texts while I showered, convinced I was deleting things when he could not find anything. He was projecting his behavior onto me. Story 48. Less affection, petty arguments, general distaste for me, becoming mean, blame shifting, seeing her come out of another man's house, seeing text messages. Story 49. Being particular about their phone, such as flipping it over or placing items like a sunglasses case on top. Story 50. Bringing up conversations they had with their friend frequently. New music, new hobbies, newfound interest in looking attractive. Over-explaining, such as saying, "I found this song by accident the other day," as if announcing it has a specific purpose, even though that is how people discover songs. More frequent bathroom trips or increased phone use in general. Anxiety that causes nausea because you are subconsciously aware of all the signs. Story 51. Out of nowhere, he started exercising in a way he never had before. I had actually tried to get him to do it, and when he started, he barely told me. Story 52. She had cheated in every relationship she had been in over the previous 5 years, and that was how she came to be with me. Somehow, I thought she would be different with me. She was not. Story 53. When I happened to walk by our walk-in closet, I noticed her texting. When she saw me, she quickly turned off her phone screen. She acted strangely when I asked her about it. We both went to bed shortly after, and I could hear her phone making noises like she was receiving texts. She was sleeping. So I looked at her phone screen and saw a message that said, "I really enjoyed last night." She had gone out the night before. The message was from a man named Sean. I confronted her, and she admitted it. She played the victim at first, but ultimately told me it had been going on for months. The worst part was that it was one of our apartment complex's maintenance workers. He was a young and good-looking man. She was a stay-at-home mom for our 2 girls while I was working 50 to 60-hour weeks. That was the first time I caught her cheating. After the second time, I left her. Story 54. For me, the biggest red flag has been partners, either abruptly or generally, excluding me from their social world. Maybe they have after-work drinks or go out with other couples often and never invite you, or they have lots of supposedly close friends you have never met. Basically, if there is a pattern of them treating your relationship as entirely separate from their other relationships, that is not an accident. You are being minimized and hidden, and they are making moves. Story 55. Precognitive dreams, gut instinct, women's items or hairs that are not yours found in their house. leaving very early for work when their workplace opens hours later, suddenly wanting to get fit, lying about other things, projecting, picking fights to call a break at convenient times such as birthdays or holidays and then returning a week later, drug abuse and giving in to temptation, aggressiveness, lack of intimacy, stories changing each time they are recounted, setting their relationship status to me only, gaslighting that worsens over time to make you feel insecure and all in your head. Also, proposing openness to a threesome in the early days. People who are truly monogamous would not want to open a relationship in any sense. If they are open to the idea, they will want to pursue it eventually. Story 56. Crocodile tears when I accused him of cheating. There are psychopaths and sociopaths who are experts in their games. Do not buy it. Your gut feeling will always tell you. Story 57. They tend to be selfish individuals and have a tendency to be cruel toward you. Story 58. The first one became very busy and never had time for anyone. She started talking to her ex and making time for him. I, being naive, did not realize what she was doing until it was too late. The second one accused me of checking out every girl we walked past or any girl in public. She became extremely defensive when I asked what she was doing after work. Then she started going through my phone and accusing me of cheating on her. She even changed her name in my phone. Finally, the last one began disappearing randomly after dinner or in the middle of the night. When I asked her about it, she feigned ignorance. Then she started picking fights with my friends' significant others and demanded to leave soon after we arrived at parties. She also started spending a lot of time with a work friend. If I asked what they were doing or if they were having fun, she told me to leave or accused me of being jealous for no reason. Looking back, I've had a rough time dating. Story 59. She announced she was taking a vacation to a nudist colony alone. I kid you not. Goodbye. Story 60. The phone. Watch how they protect their phone. Side note. A lot of mobile games have chat features. That's how I caught mine. Words with friends, my ass. More like words with friends with benefits. Story 61. I had a boyfriend who asked me about polyamory and if I was interested. I told him I wouldn't be against it, but it depends on the right person. A week later, he had someone in mind whom I was fine with, but when it didn't work out and I tried calling it off multiple times, he kept telling me I had to keep trying to the point I had constant panic attacks. It took a while for me to finally end it, because at the time I had low self-worth from a previous boyfriend and just wanted someone. He really thought it was a mutual breakup too. Eventually, I found messages from her telling him it was love at first sight when they met in class a few months earlier. Whether they cheated or not seemed all planned in my opinion. As some comments say, being geeky and unattractive doesn't matter. If attention comes their way, they'll entertain it. My current husband is actually the most attractive person, in my opinion, I have dated and has treated me the best. Story 62. I was fired for inappropriate behavior at work and claimed it was just a misunderstanding of a joke. However, by that point, he was fully focused on finding a vulnerable person to deceive. Story 63. Small falsehoods. Deceptive individuals always begin with small falsehoods. Story 64. Well, this thread was more triggering and depressing than I thought it would be. I am out. Story 65. My ex said he was too busy to cheat, and his full-time job was actually part-time. Story 66. She was extremely flirtatious with her male friends only. I am not criticizing flirtatious personalities, but she took it too far. She then proceeded to cheat on me multiple times with the same male friend. Story 67. Acting distant. Phone hoarding. Talking excessively about one person from work, the gym, or elsewhere. Sex life stops or is greatly reduced. Suddenly starting arguments. Sudden behavior changes regarding work, such as work lunches, staying late, or work trips. Sudden love bombing after some of these work trips. Story 68. I do not know about indicators of planning to cheat, but if they are not answering your phone calls and forgetting to call you back, they are probably already cheating. Story 69. When someone has cheated before, statistically, they are 3 times more likely to do it again. Once that taboo is broken, it becomes easier to repeat. You might be the lucky exception, but chances are you are probably not. Especially if they cheated on their previous partner with you, they will most likely do the same to you, no matter how much they say they have changed. I learned that the hard way. Story 70. Honestly, I knew in my gut that it was happening. I just ignored it. Story 71. Abrupt changes in long-established grooming habits and fashion. Excessive cell phone use in unusual places. Emotionally and physically distant, intimately or otherwise. Long periods of absence with no explanation, assuming the significant other will not find that unusual. Gaslighting. Story 72. He stopped caring and barely spoke to me despite living together. One day, I opened my laptop that he had used, and his Facebook Messenger was open. He had been chatting with a girl he only met through me about our relationship. I don't know if he ever physically cheated, but he did emotionally. He then said that he wished he was dating the other girl in the messages. I never explicitly told him I knew, but he could tell I wasn't acting like myself. He broke up with me. We had dated for 3 years and started dating her shortly after. It turned out he was an ass to her too and broke up with her after 4 years together. The last I heard, he was still single, and I am happily married with 2 children. So it worked out for me at least. Story 73. Got cheated on and had no idea this would happen. I thought back then that we were super solid. There was, however, one thing I was able to reflect on that happened a few times. Many lies of omission or downplaying her relationship with her colleagues and friends. By that, I mean she would say, "This is just a colleague," or "We just share similar taste." What I have learned is that lies of omission are often used by dishonest and manipulative people because they withhold information about the true nature of certain things. I initially attributed it to immaturity and should have confronted her earlier before she cheated. Story 74. Before he actually did it, his temper with me was very short. Quick to anger, quick to discount my interests, quick to find innocuous things annoying. He was distancing himself from our emotional connection. Earlier than that, he was unable to have mature conversations about his sexual desires and needs. He was never open, never blameless or shameless, and never easy or light-hearted about it. Always very guarded. Story 75. The man she was unfaithful with and I had only briefly met a few days earlier at a club. He approached me and said my girlfriend was attractive. He then used the pictures posted later on Facebook to identify who she was, added her as a friend, and together they planned to meet at the club. I confronted her the night she went, and I broke up with her the following morning. Story 76. Not I personally, but a friend of mine. Her boyfriend was very secretive with his phone. Story 77. Projection. She accused me of cheating so much that she actually started a serious fight because I cheated on her in her dream. She stopped showing me any form of intimacy, not even a hug, and stopped using any of the pet names she had for me. She stopped joining my team in a game we played. She started playing mind games and engaging in mental abuse, trying to make me believe I was at fault for minor or even non-existent issues. Money started to disappear from the bank account, and I could not account for where it went. All of the above occurred within a span of 2 weeks. Then I found legitimate evidence via chat and text logs. Story 78. I saw the way he looked at her while I was right there. He looked at her just like he used to look at me when we first started dating. It was so obvious. Story 79. If you have never done anything to make them not trust you and they start accusing you of cheating, they are either cheating already or looking for a reason they can use to justify it later. Story 80. Maybe the fact that he was cheating on someone with me, but of course I was so different and special he would never do it to me. His ex was just so crazy. I feel sad sometimes at how naive I was when I was younger. Lesson learned. Story 81. Willingness to deceive, even in the smallest situations. Someone who is willing to lie or misdirect with ill intent or for personal gain would be a sign that they are willing to cheat. Story 82. For me, there were no warning signs. We didn't fight, we still had great sex, he seemed happy, bought me gifts like normal and went on dates. It was business as usual. We had been married for 9 years. Then one day he sat me down and told me he had been having an affair with my friend, who was also married. We would actually go on many double dates together. I would hang out with my friend genuinely. They kept it very secret. The only reason he told me was because her husband needed to use her phone since his did not work. Ironically, on one of our double dates, he saw a message from Snapchat pop up with my husband's name and thought it was odd. He looked through their messages and found out they had been doing this for 4 months. He confronted her, and she took her phone, locked herself in her bedroom, and messaged my husband that the word was out. So he sat down and told me, "I so wish there had been early warning signs. They were master manipulators and good at hiding." Story 83. 2 things come to mind as indicators of a man who will cheat. First, when there is an ex who is still in his life, and he claims that she is mentally ill and that he needs to stay in contact to provide her emotional support. Second, a clear sign of a cheater is a newly divorced man living in a sparsely furnished studio apartment. His wife does not know anything about that apartment, nor is she aware of the divorce. Story 84. In my experience, when I was cheated on, the other person became much colder toward you, not responding the same way or not responding at all, and changed their behavior around you. Story 85. They kept accusing me of cheating constantly. She was my first girlfriend, and I never thought I would be with anyone else. Having to constantly argue that I wasn't cheating on the only person outside of family to love me felt very strange. She would be crying and accusing me of everything. It was so strange because she was my very first in everything. When she told me she cheated on me, I realized she was projecting from miles away. I haven't been able to trust anyone regarding their feelings for me since then, nor have I been on a date or anything for about 19 years. I hope it was worth ruining my self-esteem, confidence, and self-worth. I will never be in a relationship again. Story 86. He had a history of cheating. You always think it will be different with you. Story 87. They text less. The lies become frequent, and they grow distant and disrespectful towards you and your relationship. They become less considerate when making decisions, stop coming home, do not call, and give excuses like, "I was working late and slept in my car." Story 88. Honestly, I think there are a few ways you can tell. 1. When they start bringing up names you've never heard of. Of course, it's natural to meet new people, but I find it suspicious when a certain name gets brought up that you've never met, heard of, or seen, and they're hanging out with them outside of work. 2. When they begin accusing you of cheating. In a healthy relationship, this honestly never comes up. Some insecurities may arise, but I trust my partner and don't believe they're actively cheating. It does not mean I'm safe, but why bring it up if you're happy? It becomes rather unusual. 3. When they begin texting and make sure you cannot see their screen. Let's say you're lying down watching a movie. If you have nothing to hide, you'll just respond without getting out of bed or off the couch. Why jump up or turn their body so you can't see their screen? If I'm cozy, I'm responding and putting my phone down. Why do all of that? 4. Canceling last minute. Accidents definitely happen, but I always found that when cheated on, suddenly things would happen or I would be avoided by my partner, and it felt out of the norm. 5. Looking through your phone or finding something to accuse you of. Starting fights over very small things to make you feel as though you're crazy. Love is definitely real and out there, but knowing the signs early can help. Anyone who loves or cares about you would be willing to communicate and be open and honest about cheating. Wishing you luck. Story 89. I did not see any signs. I trusted her when she said she was going out with her friends from work. I found out when my brother saw her in a bar with a man. My brother confronted them. The man did not know she was married. I kicked her out. He actually looked me up later and apologized. That was a bit strange. Story 90. Became incredibly unfriendly and secretive about work. They quickly close tabs or lock their phone as soon as you enter the room, even if you are not approaching them. They act like you don't exist unless they want intimacy, and once that is over, they immediately disappear into their escapism. Story 91. Signs they have it in them. High need for attention. Selfishness or low empathy, lack of remorse. Low impulse control with other types of dopamine. Likes the beginnings of things and was very intense in the early days with you. Subtle signs they are doing it. Behavior change in any way relative to baseline. Overly explaining things when you ask normal questions. Excessive mentioning of the person's name in contexts where it is not necessary. Sometimes there are no signs at all other than your own instinct telling you something is wrong. You can drive yourself crazy not trusting that. I had access to my ex's phone. He left his Facebook logged in and wasn't careful, but there was nothing. I just kind of knew and kept pushing it down because I felt myself looking insane. Eventually, I got confirmation only because the girl, his ex, publicly blasted him 6 months later, and I happened to see her social media the day she posted it. If not for that, I never would have been vindicated. Story 92, we never fought, but suddenly they always started fights with me over nothing. Story 93, made inappropriate comments about my friends such as, she is very attractive in dresses to show her body, and she is aware of it, or, I feel sorry that she does not enjoy oral sex, which means she has never had a good experience. I want to show her how pleasurable it can be. Story 94, suddenly had to get off the phone every night around 9 p.m. Story 95, small inconsequential things that are odd or out of place, like a strange item of clothing, a lone earring, or a new key. It is the small details that alert you. Story 96, became very distant, would not text as often and delayed making plans that usually involved us spending all of our free time together. Story 97, when it happened to me, it was with two common friends. The biggest thing was feeling like a third wheel in my own relationship. Then he became weird about his phone. He wouldn't let me change the music on it if we were driving together, wouldn't let me call my phone on it if I lost it, and so on. He had to do it himself, no matter the circumstances. He bought a privacy screen protector for it as well. Then he started going to the gym and not coming home until late, already having eaten dinner elsewhere, when we used to eat dinner quite often together. Shortly after these signs, I found out he was cheating on me physically and emotionally with two different women that we both knew. We were together 5 years. Things get better, though, and you heal slowly but surely. Story 98. Sudden changes in routine with no explanations. Being secretive or dismissive when asked about conversations or text messages. Story 99. The screensaver or lock screen no longer shows a picture of us or me. They suddenly start talking about someone new a lot, not romantically, bringing them up often like a teenager talking about a new friend. Story 100. Saying the words, I want to have my cake and eat it too to me. Loud and clear, buddy. Story 101. On her honeymoon, she went to visit old friends overnight. Story 102. Accusing me of cheating and going through my phone while I am asleep. Story 103. The man she was cheating on me with started to belittle me directly. Later, I found the same remarks in her messages from him. They had been spending time together. It's just dessert, she would say. After everything happened and we worked it out and had children, I saw the same signs she had exhibited before and knew she was cheating again. Story 104. He had a strong need to call out cheaters and told me he would never do that. He hated them and despised them. He was a jealous, abusive monogamist who cheated. I am a polyamorous person who needs sex like oxygen, but cannot tolerate the emotional pain if I hurt my partner. Story 105. For me, one of the first signs was neglecting responsibilities, then becoming more secretive and going out with friends more frequently. Story 106. She became distant. What used to make her laugh would irritate her. Anything I said was inappropriate. I always thought it was a phase and tried to understand. Story 107. They start to become disinterested and do not want to do anything fun with you. Story 108. My wife was constantly losing weight. She got her teeth whitened, new makeup, and clothes. She picked fights for no reason. She did not want me to pick her up from work for dinner or attend any of her work functions. She was telling coworkers stories about me to justify being unfaithful. While she was doing this, she alternated between being excessively affectionate and cold as ice. Story 109. A sudden, inexplicable interest in losing weight, getting fitter, grooming, and dressing better. Story 110. Early on, I remember feeling anger about things that were relatively small, such as name-calling and changes in personality. Things just felt different, and the behavior and excuses did not make sense. They avoided me. The cheating was already happening, but I am Not sure how one can know beforehand unless there is a prior understanding of their cheating. Not everyone will cheat. Some do it for self-esteem as an escape, or because the relationship is going downhill. People I have talked to can recognize when it is happening again. Story 111. I think for me it was the little digs he made at me. He actually accused me and questioned my contacts. He even said I had more time to cheat than he did. Deflecting. Story 112. There was absolutely no change. Not a single thing. He hid it well. Story 113. She became critical unexpectedly about things she had never mentioned before. Story 114. That feeling in your stomach? That is all you need. You will be right 10 out of 10 times. Story 115. Protective of their phone. Ambiguous answers to simple questions. Had insecurity that turned into projection. Story 116. He told me early on that he would be okay with me sleeping with men outside the relationship. I thought that was strange because I was not interested in it at all and never asked for that. He brought it up on his own. When I was upset with him about something, he would say, "I do not know why you are upset with me. I have never cheated on you." I had to say, there can be problems in a relationship aside from infidelity. Like, hello? He was promiscuous before we got together and had a high number of sexual partners. I heard him lie to other people about trivial things where I could not even understand the motivation for lying. Story 117. We always wore couple costumes for Halloween. He did not want to do that and just ordered his own costume that had nothing to do with any of the couple costumes we had talked about. He started working out more and suddenly cared more about his appearance. He had strange no-wives or work-related events to attend and stayed out much later than the bars were open. We went away for a long weekend for Oktoberfest, about a 1.5-hour drive away. He insisted on taking his car separately and joining later on the day of arrival, so we did not ride together. He stayed in the hotel longer to shower and get ready while I met him there. This was the worst experience of my life. It took a long time to get over it, but I am still sad every time I think about it. Be honest and have an adult, yet painfully honest conversation if you want to end a relationship. That is my opinion. Story 118. Your female friend from college is getting married and invited you to the wedding. Obviously, you have feelings for her. Typing this reminded me that her birthday is tomorrow, and I should text her. Thank you, Reddit question. The friend, not the cheating ex. Story 119. The biggest change was she started arguing with me about talking to a man alone during our cruise vacation. Story 120. The first sign was when he suddenly started staying up late on the telephone. Story 121. Intense interest in building relationships with classmates, bringing up random perceived injustices in our relationship, such as, because of you we have to live here forever, you'll never let us move, and I'll always have to travel alone because you hate traveling. Keeping score of affection, for example, I rubbed your feet longer than you rubbed mine. Accusing me of cheating or having crushes on people. Increased phone usage and becoming protective of the phone by changing the passcode suddenly and installing screen time limits. Becoming very critical over things that never previously mattered. Telling you they never wanted another child after getting you pregnant. Basically becoming a very unpleasant person. Story 122. For me, it was that she was texting him dozens of times a day and also talking to him, but she would wait until I left for work or was with my kids at their sporting events to make phone calls. He was my best friend, so I overlooked it for far too long. If it had been a random person, I would have put my foot down much earlier and stopped anything from happening. But because I trusted him, I mistakenly assumed it was all innocent. It was not. Story 123. She kept assuming I would cheat every time I went out with my friends, then saying things like, "It's okay. I know you'll cheat. All guys do." She even went as far as offering to buy me a sex worker for my birthday. These were massive red flags. But back then I was just annoyed that she thought I was a cheater. One night, I looked at her phone after it was blowing up with text messages. There were a bunch of nude photos from another guy we knew, and she was encouraging it. Story 124. I paid all the bills. She was a stay-at-home mom. I gave her an allowance equal to mine, half each after bills and savings were paid, but I went away for work, so she wanted to take over the finances. I put my pay into a joint account, and we paid personal allowances into a new account or card for each of us. She then stopped paying bills and forged my signature on loans in my name. I was still the only one with a paid job. She spent the money on clothes and nightclubs. I hated going there, but she missed that. I looked after my kids because I was their parent, and she always came home happy and in a good mood. It turned out she was happy because of all the sex she was having. It put her into a good mood. Since I never missed out, I thought it was a great arrangement. Then she became secretive and mean. Instant messaging was invented, and that was the end of the happy mood. Her guilt drove her to hate me. By the time we divorced, she was openly cheating and doing drugs, which would have been a fireable offense for me. It was common knowledge at my workplace that she was available for anyone she wanted. What you call a Jody in the United States. It affected me pretty deeply. Story 125. Preemptive defense. He basically started laying the groundwork to indicate that there were people in our circle, which I was new to, who made up stories about him for drama or personal conflict. In hindsight, there were a lot of warning signs, but I was 19 and naive. Story 126. Became distant and refused to talk about it. Started going out and never invited me. Requested very specific things in bed we had never tried before, but clearly knew exactly what felt good. Story 127. They start to seem so hard done by. It is the entitlement coming out. I never got to do X, Y, Z. Deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender patterns occur in arguments, especially reversing victim and offender roles. You are trying to have a constructive conversation to work together on a solution, but there is literally no path for them to be satisfied with you. They are setting you up to fail. You do not understand me. Story 128. Not really. After they did it, they started to love bomb me until the guilt became too much for them, and they confessed. Came out of left field. The 7-year itch is real. Story 129. He repositioned his computer and desk so that you could not see the screen unless you walked all the way around and craned your neck. Story 130. When they flip their phone over and there is no reason to, be very worried. Story 131. He started asking me to knock before entering his computer room. Story 132. She called me and told me she was going to perform oral sex. I was stuck on a military base that weekend. Interesting experience. Story 133. My lash technician had the same name as the girl, and every time I said I was going to see Chloe, not her real name, he would say, Chloe who? Which was really weird. Story 134. We were a couple for almost 4 years and lived together. She isolated me as much as possible from my friends, especially the female ones. She was always extremely jealous and wanted to know where I was and who I was with. Then there came a time when she started a fight every time she came home from work. She became very cold and distant. That's when I noticed for the first time that her cell phone was lying on the table with the screen facing down. When I turned the phone over, I saw that a man I didn't know had messaged her on Snapchat. I confronted her. I knew their password and could see that they had sent each other a number of snaps and videos. She lied to me to the bitter end, claiming it was her new gay boyfriend and that her work colleague could confirm it. Her mistake was showing me his Instagram account to prove he was gay. When I wrote to him and asked, he called me back and told me she had been with him 2 days ago and planned to do it again. When I called her to confront her, she hung up. Then I received a message on WhatsApp telling me to please pick up my things and leave. Story 135. I had a girlfriend who cheated on me because she was extremely jealous. I could not go out with her because she was insecure and would get mad if I ordered food from a pretty waitress. She would say, "Why did you look at her like that? Am I not pretty enough for you? I was just ordering fries with my burger." She said she wanted to do it before I did because she knew I was going to. She said it as if it made sense. She was crazy. I have not spoken to her since. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.